Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leader in rushing, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. It is officially Packers-Bears game day, NFL playoff wildcard round. So excited to dive into the pregame show a little later this afternoon. We'll go live roughly an hour and a half before kickoff, so you guys make sure that you kind of set your reminder. Click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live there a little later. And we're going to break everything down, get the latest inactives, any reports. We'll show you live footage from Chicago down there at Soldier Field, take you right up to kickoff. And then immediately following it, we'll be doing the postgame show. But that's not the purpose of this particular live stream. I want to do a quick one this morning, kind of test the temperature in the room as a report just got dropped over on X earlier this morning from Ian Rappaport. It's about Matt LaFleur and his potential head coaching contract extension. So here is what Ian Rappaport put out. Now, listen, I know nobody's going to look at this like, whoa, we didn't see this coming. I think we all expected Matt LaFleur to potentially be back with the Green Bay Packers. I know I did. I'd say the large majority of people in here do. We've taken multiple poll questions all over, the season this year, and it was always, sometimes it was upward of 85 to 90% of the fan base said he should return as the Green Bay Packers coach. He should not be fired. We need to do a poll question on contract extension now. Maybe we'll do that during the pregame show. But nonetheless, the vibe is 85 to 90% of the fan base want him back in Green Bay. And if you go on to X, and I see everybody commenting about social media and our YouTube comment here, it can be a cesspool, right? And typically what happens is you get the loud minority of the fan base that are screaming to fire this guy, fire that guy, bench this dude, start this guy over him, right? That's why I like to do the poll questions. Go, okay, let's take an educated approach to this and let everybody have a voice, everybody cast your vote, and that kind of gives us a realistic, obviously viewpoint of the fan base. Now, here's the breaking news. Ian Rappaport tweeted this out. The Packers and coach Matt LaFleur will meet shortly after the season ends to discuss extending his contract, with both sides, I repeat, both sides hoping for a great outcome. So who does Ian Rappaport work for? Anytime you see a tweet go out, guys, anytime you see a report, breaking news, whatever, the first thing you should do is analyze the source. Who is the source here? Well, first of all, who's the reporter, I should say? Ian Rappaport. Who does Ian Rappaport work for? Who is his employer? Okay. He doesn't work for the Packers specifically. He's not an individual, what do you call it? I'm trying to think of the right term here. He doesn't own his own media outlet, right? So he's not a privatized media source. He works for the National Football League, right? Ian Rappaport works for the NFL. Who is the NFL? The NFL, people look at NFL like it's Roger Goodell and he runs the NFL. The NFL is comprised of 31 owners plus our acting owner, who is Ed Policy right now. That is the National Football League. Okay. If they hire Ian Rappaport, then who does Ian Rappaport work for? He works directly for the teams, for the owners, right? So again, when you talk about the source, where did this come from? This came from the Green Bay Packers. So in my opinion, this is the Green Bay Packers sending word out there, hey, we're going to meet with Matt immediately following the season, and we want him back as our head coach, right? Now, money's going to become a factor, right? How much are they willing to pay him? Is he willing to test the coaching free agent market after next year if he's not happy with the offer they give him? I love this approach by the Packers, and you guys know I'm a big Matt LaFleur fan, but I love the approach by the Packers because what they're doing here is going, hey, we want him back. We're going to talk to him immediately following the season about getting him a contract extension. He's under contract for one more year, for those of you who may not know that, right? So with that being said, he's under contract for next year, right? And they're going to approach it. I think the way they're approaching this, like, hey, look, we want to sit down and give you a contract extension. Let's see how this playoff game goes first. That's what's going to determine the money, in my opinion. Now, that's not to say that they're going to go out there and and issue a pay cut to him. That's not to say that they're going to offer him less than his current contract. You guys know how the economy works. You know how inflation works. Everything's always moving forward, right? If you're a person that you've looked up at your last 3 or 4 job changes and you have went down in salary, you've went down in income, you're probably doing something majorly wrong. I think we would all agree. Anytime you take a new job, it's usually for more money, or how many people get an increase pretty much on a yearly basis, right? But nonetheless, I think this is perfect by the Packers to go, hey, look, we're going to sit down after the season to get him a contract extension, but it's kind of like not really putting him on notice, like you're going to lose your job, you're not going to be back if you lose to the Bears. I think we all agree. If he loses to the Bears, I don't think Matt LaFleur loses his job. I think he's going to be back next year, and the contract negotiations are going to continue forward. Here's the issue, though. If you go out there and you get beat by the Bears by 20 or 30 points, your value just went down tremendously on the next contract extension. Again, it doesn't mean you're going to take a pay cut from what you currently have, because that's just not how that works. If they were going to be willing to give him a pay cut, then that's them saying he's not the guy, and they would move on, right? So again, now if he goes out there, here's the flip side. If the Packers go out there and they beat the Bears on the road with 16 people on injured reserve, and the kind of cards stacked against them, if they go out there and they beat the Bears by 10 points, that value just went up again, right? So again, this article was written by Ian Rappaport. I'm going to dive into it just a touch. I won't read the entire thing, but then we're going to talk about some of the value of the contracts across the league with other head coaches. So it says, once the Green Bay Packers season is over, and they hope it's later rather than sooner, the plan is to act quickly for one of the organization's most visible and important faces. Sources say the Packers plan to engage head coach Matt LaFleur in contract discussions shortly after the season ends, with the mutual goal of extending his contract. LaFleur, whose deal expiring following the 2026 season, has a 76-40-1 record and is widely considered to be one of the better coaches in the NFL. The Packers visit the Chicago Bears at 8 p.m. There on Prime, blah, 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 blah. You guys know what that. LaFleur is not coaching for his job tonight, sources say. I repeat, LaFleur is not coaching for his job tonight, sources say. Again, who is the source? It's the team. So it's probably Ed Policy or somebody close to Ed Policy right there in-house. I love this approach by the Packers. That takes pressure off. Like, hey, look, everybody in this organization that might go out there and play a little, oh, God, the thing we got going for us right now against the Bears is, to me, there's no pressure. Earlier this week, I seen people, and I won't mention the podcast, I won't mention the show, it was on YouTube. They were saying, boy, anybody, this was the exact quote, anybody who doesn't think there's more pressure on Matt LaFleur and these Packers than the Bears, you don't know ball. What the hell are you talking about? Got 16 people on IR. Nobody's expecting the Packers to go on this epic run and win the Super Bowl, and if they don't, everybody's on the hot seat. That's just silly. So again, when you look at how this lays out here in the reporting from an NFL employee, i.e. a Packers employee, essentially it's an extension of the Packers, LaFleur is not coaching for his job tonight. So whoever the hell said that, you guys can figure it out. You don't know ball, sir. You don't know ball. And I love the fact that he tried to smack the little fans or y'all don't know ball, and you ended up getting it wrong. That's just absolutely hilarious to me. But Packers CEO Ed Policy has worked with LaFleur for 7 years, which includes before he succeeded Mark Murphy in July of 2025. They know each other well. Policy, who has been with the Packers since August of 2012, was on the committee to hire LaFleur, and he has all the data points he needs. You guys remember earlier this year when there were media members that made a big stink about, oh, did you hear what Ed Policy said about not extending Matt LaFleur? Remember that, Jacob?
Well, I do. Yep.
It's common with the Packers. Like, he had one more year left on his contract. The confusion that reporting caused really told the whole story to me, because there were so many people going, oh, man, Matt LaFleur's on the hot seat. They're not going to extend him. We're going to have a new head coach next year. You're like, he's got one more year left on his contract. But the way the reporting happened, not all of them, but a good chunk of them, they made it sound as if Matt LaFleur was going to be out after this year. And it's just crazy that it was almost like they were trying to break precedent of extending a coach with 2 years left on his deal. That just doesn't happen. It hasn't happened in Green Bay to the best of my knowledge. So with all that being said, that's kind of the gist of the article there. We got Jacob joining us now, just kind of breaking this down. A little cliff notes here, Jacob, on what we just uncovered, really. Packers and Matt LaFleur are going to meet about a contract extension as soon as the season ends. They said he's not coaching for his job, right? Matt LaFleur's coaching record with the Packers, 76-40-1. I think he's 16th all-time as it sits right now. Even after a 4-game losing streak, right? With all the injuries and choosing to sit your starters and everything, you're still 16th all time in winning percentage is wild. And then, of course, it talked about how Ed Policy has that long relationship with LaFleur. Some people are going, this isn't Ed's guy. Remember how they said that? They reported that too, Jacob. Well, this isn't Ed Policy's guy. He was on the committee to hire him, you knuckleheads. Like, how are we this bad at our job that we're reporting such inaccuracies? But anyway, Packers organization likes and respects LaFleur and hopes he remains with the franchise long-term if talks go well. Matt LaFleur, Jacob, he may hold their feet to the fire and go, I want a bunch of money, right? So there's a chance that they don't reach a deal. Nobody's saying that. But this idea that Matt LaFleur was coaching for his job, man, it's why we caught a little heat by not talking about it more on the show. I know in the comments and stuff. But this is why we don't talk about that stuff. If there's merit to it, we'll talk about it. But I don't think any of us expected Matt LaFleur to be coaching for his job this year. Did you?
No, not at all. And, the 4-game streak, it's not pretty, obviously, and would we like to have it a different way, obviously. I think Matt LaFleur gets a lot of heat from a lot of the fan base that's completely unjustified. There are some things that if I wished, if I could push a magic button and, maybe make him more of a rah-rah guy, more of a Dan Campbell-esque type coach, maybe have a little more grit to him. That's one thing. I can understand that argument and I can hear that argument. But when, you get people just out there saying that he's not good, that he's a bad play caller, that he's not good at designing plays, that, he's not a leader of men. I just feel like those are you can go extremes on both sides. We have to take a step back and look again with that 4-game losing streak. We're still the 16th winningest coach of all time. Up there with some pretty rare air, Hall of Fame type caliber coaches. And, there are some situational things. It's kind of like how people give a lot of crap, when they gave it to Christian Watson when he was early in his career, when he had some major drops, that people remember those. It's kind of the same thing with, people kind of crapping on Romeo Doubs because of that one unfortunate incident where he doesn't make the play on the special teams onside kick. There's certain things where people just, for whatever reason, they remember key moments, key situations, and then they kind of dictate their whole belief or kind of support for that single person based on those single incidences, but they forget about 99% of the other stuff that they've done well over their career. And I think Matt LaFleur deserves a little grace. 17 people on IR, that's not an excuse. That's just a fact of what he's dealt with. Having the transition from Rodgers to Love, dealing with that kind of dynamic. I think he handled that as well as any coach could in the league. I think we need to put a little more respect on Matt LaFleur's name. I'd love to see him personally stay. I know that I may be I don't know. I guess maybe it'd be nice to throw up a poll or something and see just simply, would you like to keep Matt LaFleur or see him go? I would bet that it'd be closer than you'd think, probably 50-50.
Yeah, I've done it multiple times, bro. And in some cases it reached 90%. Others it was hovering around 85. I think the lowest it got was around 80%. They wanted him back. So again, those people that are screaming fire Matt LaFleur, they don't want him. They are in the very, 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 very small minority there. Josh Martin with the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. He says, I'm happy LaFleur is staying, but we need a true OC. Yeah, some people say they want Matt LaFleur to stay, but they don't want him to call plays. I could not disagree more. I love Matt LaFleur's play calling. And it's crazy too. Somebody actually put a graphic together the other day. They did the research. People that say Matt LaFleur doesn't take enough chances, he's too predictable. The study actually proved Matt LaFleur was the least predictable play caller in the entire National Football League. Yeah. Now, it surprised me that he was the least predictable, but I definitely didn't expect him to be in the list with the most predictable, right? So that kind of caught me off guard, like, wow, these people, they really don't have anything to argue about there. But in terms of a true OC, I would love to have Mike McDaniel come in and be your offensive coordinator. I think that'd be absolutely awesome for the run game. The run game has flourished wherever he's gone. Now, as a head coach, you kind of throw that out the window a little bit because there's different responsibilities that come with that. But in terms of him being an offensive coordinator, boy, has he put together some awesome, awesome running games. So how do you feel about Mike McDaniel, Jake? Just a quick little answer here. How do you feel about potentially bringing in Mike McDaniel as your OC if you can make that happen?
I would love it, honestly. He's a quirky dude, but him and LaFleur go way back. Don't they work together in Washington, if I'm thinking correctly, right?
Washington, Houston. I think it was in Houston that his addiction surfaced, and he was pretty much out of football. And then I want to say LaFleur, and I could be getting my timeline mixed up a little bit. I think LaFleur went and stuck up for him to get him back in football. It might have been around Washington or maybe even Atlanta, somewhere around that term where they were, shifting around with Kyle Shanahan. But yeah, he went to bat for him over that addiction, and he got his life straightened out and everything. So
Yeah, I personally think it would be really fun, really cool. You look at some of the packages, especially in the run game, like they have some very unique type stuff, and they've had a lot of success in Miami there with the run game with A-Chain and a few of the other young backs that they've had over the years. I think it'd be great. I think it'd be a little shake up and a little different. And obviously, being that those guys are familiar with each other, I feel like that they'd mesh well, kind of bounce concepts off of each other, different types of formations, different ways. And I agree with you. I would like to see LaFleur keep with the play calling. Just I think he's too much of a brilliant offensive mind. Again, one of those things. It seems like that everybody's held up on. Oh, he calls an inside run on 4th and 1. It's like, well, I think Ryan dove into that study as well, and it actually wasn't the case that it's you just know he's going to run it inside past the guard on 4th and 1. It wasn't actually the case. I think the first 3 that he looked up were not that case. Every now and then. It can feel like we get a little stagnant or stale sometimes with the play calling, but again, I think it's the situation, the game, whatever's going on with the game flow. But personally, I would love to see McDaniel. I think it'd be fun. I think it would shake up this offense, and I think we have a lot of weapons that he could utilize. Can I pose a weird question that popped in my head? I don't want it to steer us too far off track, but it was somebody asked me today at work. They're like, if you could bring one player back, either Micah Parsons or Tucker Kraft, what would you do? And I think the most immediate answer, most people would jump on Micah Parsons. I love Tucker Kraft so much that I actually thought about it for quite a while. And I just think that, man, it would be so great for our offense. I mean, they're both, I think, catalysts on both. Obviously, we know what Parsons brings to the defense, but I think people are sleeping on how good Tucker Kraft of a season was. Like, he was cranking, dude.
I think both those are true. Like my choice, and it's not particularly close, it would be Micah Parsons, but I don't think there's anybody that not anybody. There's a very few people that realize just how good of a season Tucker was putting together. And it wasn't like, oh, it just happened this year. You started to see it really big last year. Like, this dude can take over a game. And obviously Matt LaFleur wants a lot of the offense to run through the tight end position. So it makes sense, man. And again, if you're wondering why so many teams are going to 12 personnel, like Chicago, when we play them tonight, they love throwing out of 12 personnel. The EPA per drop back goes up tremendously when you throw out of 12 personnel, because you're forcing the defense in their base package, and you're putting a tight end on a backer, most likely in some cases, right? And again, those guys, when they come on the field, they're keying in on the run. And if you run a lot of boot action off of that and a lot of trickery, which we know Ben Johnson loves doing, that's how you can really kind of throw a wrinkle in everything. Nick McSwain says only whiny, emotional fans think he's a bad play caller. Literally every analyst says he's one of the best in the league. Completely agree with that. Now, Yasmin in here on Rumble, appreciate you jumping in, says, like John Harbaugh, ? If you're asking if I like John Harbaugh, I think John Harbaugh is a good coach. But here's what's crazy. The people that were calling, and I don't know if you are, Yasmin, and if you are, we can agree to disagree. It's cool. But the people that were calling, man, fire Matt LaFleur and hire John Harbaugh, what are we basing that off of, right? This is what's crazy. Look at this. When you look at the numbers, these are the contracts. And again, this is estimated. The coaches don't have to release their contract information. Okay. So this is kind of estimated. I think it's a pretty accurate assessment. I just asked AI, hey, who are the reportedly, because this stuff leaks out sometimes from agencies and stuff, because coaches have agents. Those agents want to prove that they're getting their guys the top money. The coaches would rather the money not get leaked out, because that creates a little awkwardness with the players if they're making significantly more than the players, and the players are the ones out there putting their body on the line, right? But here's how the NFL head coaches rank in terms of highest to lowest salary. Again, estimation. You guys do your own research here, okay? This is what we got. Andy Reid, $20 million per. Sean Payton, $18 million. Mike Tomlin, $16 million. Jim Harbaugh, $16 million. Sean McVay, $15 million. Pete Carroll, $15 million. Kyle Shanahan, $14 million. Ben Johnson, $13 million. Kevin O'Connell, $13 million. John Harbaugh, $12 million. So we're going to pay more money for a guy who, by the way, John Harbaugh is 36th all time in winning percentage at 614. That is 20 spots lower than Matt LaFleur at 654. And then it becomes, well, he's won a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl. What have they done since 2012, guys? That was 13 years ago, right? Like, I mean, they've had good seasons here or there, and I don't think he should have been fired personally. I think that was their ownership overreacting. But this idea that he's just hands down better than Matt LaFleur, I can't get on board with personally. Going on down the line here, Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, $12 million. Dan Campbell, $11 million. Sean McDermott, $11 million. Mike McDonald in Seattle, $9 million. Below $9 million annually, and again, we don't know the exact figure. Kellen Moore with the Saints, somewhere between $5 and $7.5 million is the estimation. Matt LaFleur, $5 million. He has been underpaid, is the reality of the situation. Like, look at all those coaches that he's outperformed. Not all of them on this list, but a good chunk of them, right? There's only a handful of guys there that I would take over Matt LaFleur that's on that list right there, right? It's just, again, man, for me, he deserves a raise. Now, how much money is he going to ask for? You can't ask for Andy Reid money, right? You better start winning a bunch of rings if you want that money. Sean Payton, I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that Matt LaFleur is in the same ballpark as Sean Payton, right? Sean Payton, when did he win his Super Bowl, Jacob? Was that like 2009, 2008, whatever it was?
A while. Yep.
A long time ago, right? Now, he's turned that franchise around, and I love Sean Payton. I think he's a great coach.
Yeah.
But Mike Tomlin, right? When was the last time he did? If that kick had went through the uprights and not sailed right against Baltimore, he would have been fired. That was the rumor. He was getting fired after that game. And he's making $16 million, Matt LaFleur making $5 million. So again, what's that number? And I say this because I get emotional over it. I say this because when they sit down and negotiate this, Matt LaFleur's got a case to say, I want $15 million per. Mm-hmm. And the Packers may go, I don't know, might not want to do that. That's when things can steer off the beaten path, right?
Yeah.
And that's why this playoff game means so much too, Jacob, because if he goes out there and wins this playoff game on the road, he might get $15 million, right? He'll definitely crack 10. I think he'll definitely crack 10 million. But because he's going to look up and go, Bub, look around here. Dan Campbell making $11 million a year. He's making twice as much as me. They didn't even make the playoffs.
Kevin O'Connell, same thing. Ben Johnson.
Right. So
I like what Jen says here. It says, begging anyone who cares about the coaching in Green Bay needs to read Justice Mosqueda's article on it. We just don't pay coaches pretty much. I think that's fair. And then to the point about John Harbaugh, Ryan had a great point on his podcast this morning. He said that apparently Harbaugh came out and specifically said, here's my list of demands. I want to have complete control of the roster. Mm-hmm. I want to have complete control of who I pick as my GM. Now, does that sound like something the Packers organization that Ed Policy is going to just let willy-nilly come in and have a guy kick open the door and say, I'm running the show now? And by the way, here's $20 million or whatever he's asking for. It just, to me, doesn't seem logical in any realm. And then just to clarify, Yasman did say, I meant as a rah-rah, get players fired up coach. Baltimore's defense has always had an edge. And I agree with that. Yeah. They have.
Yeah. So. Great point, Yasman, for sure. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how everything kind of unfolds here. People are wondering how Kevin Stefanski's kept his job this whole time. It's because he's only making $3.5 million. That makes sense, right? Cleveland's like, we don't care about winning anyway, man. He's willing to go out there and coach for that much. Let's just roll on here. So, very, very interesting to kind of see how everything unfolds. That's pretty much all I got, Jacob. If you got any parting thoughts before we wrap this thing up, I'm going to go take care of some business, and then we'll get ready for the pregame show here in a little bit.
Just to be clear, so everybody knows, what time are we starting this pregame show festivities today?
So the game kicks off 8:00 my time is what it's showing on the old Google machine. So typically we go an hour and a half before. So that would be 6:30 my time, which would be 5:30 Lambeau time, right? Okay. So 5:30 p.m. Central time, we will go live for the PTA pregame show. And we'll take you all the way up to kickoff. We'll give you live shots over there at Soldier Field in Chicago. We'll give you the actives, inactives, any other news that might break between now and then. Really, it's going to be a celebration, guys. I see a lot of people stressed out over this game. Bro, in my opinion, we're playing with the house's money. Like,
I agree.
If you had told any all those fans that think, oh, God, we need to fire everybody, we need this, they underperformed. If you had told them at the beginning of the year, hey, you're going to have to play a good chunk of the year without Tucker Kraft, without your starting center. Christian Watson's going to be out until November, right? You're going to finally get him back, and then you're going to have injuries in the wide receiver room like crazy. Michael Parsons was supposed to be the huge difference maker, right? And I believe we'd agree he was. You're going to be without him coming down the stretch too. He's going to tear his ACL in week 14. Would they still have that same energy? They would. So when you get caught up in the season, it's like you want it bad. I want it bad too. But at some point, we got to have realistic expectations and go, okay, this is an uphill battle. And that's what I said a few weeks ago. kind of running out of gas here, boys. Like, and it doesn't have anything to do with the players' effort, their energy, the talent. We're simply playing. We've got practice squad players on 3rd and 4th down in crucial situations, trying to make plays, win ball games, right? So again, I'm stress free in this game. I want it bad, but I think a large chunk of people outside of Packer fans are looking at this game going, yeah, it's an uphill battle, especially former GMs, former players. Now, Dan Orlovsky was like, boys, don't be surprised if the Packers come out and kick that ass because they are the better team, right? I could see that happening too. I could see the Packers winning by a couple scores. I could see Chicago winning by a couple scores. I could also see this thing coming down to a last-second field goal in a windy city too. So it's going to be fun, man. I'm excited about it. But appreciate you jumping in, dude. You got anything else? You good?
Could I pose one last question for you?
Yeah, man.
Since we're on the topic of coaches and firing and all that, listening to, again, Ryan, I think it was the call-in show, Packernet After Dark, somebody posed the question, if you had to pick a coaching position or a coach on the team that was on the hot seat other than LaFleur, who would you pick? I believe that both the caller and Ryan agreed that they would rather see Butkus, the offensive line coach, or, of course, Rich Bisaccia. If you had to pick between those two, which one do you think? And I'll tell you right away, I just believe that the offensive line has not been up to Green Bay Packer caliber. Obviously, we've had the injuries, and we had a few new pieces that we tried to plug in, playing a little bit of musical chairs with our 2 draft picks there that were pretty high. That just, for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like we have that same offensive line that we've had for years and years and years. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so for me, if I had to pick between those two, it would be Butkus, hands down. Because again, how I feel about special teams is if I hadn't read this in football books years ago, I probably would have a differing opinion. I'd probably be on the side of everybody like, oh, we need to get rid of Bisaccia. This is a common problem for West Coast offense teams. Most of the time, if you've got and what I mean by that, it's not necessarily the coaches, is it this or that, the play. It's when you've got front offices who have an entire history of their existence building West Coast offense-based teams, they typically don't put a lot of emphasis on signing players to play special teams. Let me explain this. If you were to do it very, very simple, and it's way more complex than this, but if we break it down to the simplest terms, think of Bill Walsh and how they built teams, okay? And then think of, on the other side, Bill Parcells and how he built teams. Now, if you want to take it a step further, think of Mike McCarthy and how that team has been built for a West Coast offense coach, and think of Bill Belichick, because those are 2 disciples, right, that have come down those 2 coaching trees. Parcells to Bill Belichick, obviously Bill Walsh to Mike Holmgren down to Mike McCarthy, right? And it extends to Matt LaFleur as well. It's not a coincidence the Packers special teams. Guys, how many coordinators are we going to go through? Like, this is something that's been going on since I've been a fan in 2003. It was literally, yeah, we need a new special teams coordinator. Get him out of there. He's slow licking this guy and that guy and this guy. And every time we expect there's going to be a big change, and there never is. Why? Because the bottom of the roster is not built to bolster special teams. It's built offensive-minded first. Like, I mean, think about it. If you were to sign a player that's an undrafted free agent, how many times have we seen their RAS through the roof, Jacob? Right? Ben Sims, remember, his was like, whoa, the RAS through the roof. Ben Sims was effective on offense. I think you and I agree. We like to see him in a lineup, right? Big body dude, great athleticism. What the hell did he ever do on special teams, right? That's one of those bottom of the roster guys, right? And if you look at how Belichick built his rosters during that whole run to whatever, to fame, to success with the dynasty, they were key. They had one guy, Matthew Slater, I think that was his name, was a team captain. And he was a receiver on the depth chart and never played receiver. He was just strictly special teams, and he was the special teams captain. And he was just one of those dudes. Like, they constantly built their roster around spending money on guys that were just special teams players. And that's why I don't think it'll change in Green Bay until you change the mentality of the front office on how you build the bottom third of the roster, because they truly do. Parcells and Belichick always treated special teams. They say all 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. He said that 1,000 times a season. How often have you heard Matt LaFleur say in all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams? It's just not on the forefront of their mind. It's more about how can we get that extra weapon. And I'm not saying that's not important, but there's positives and negatives to both. You look at Belichick and how they won those early championships before Brady was good. Yeah, everybody wants to give Brady all the credit. Brady was cheeks early on, and it was Belichick's defense that was winning things, and it was special teams. I mean, he said it for years. The best player on their team while he was there was Adam Vinatieri.
Yeah,
he said they were in the best situation possible in that Super Bowl. I think it was against the Rams, where it came down to a game-winning field goal. He said, the game was on the line with our best player on the football field, and that was Adam Vinatieri, because they really keyed on it. Now, think of the kicker problems we just went through. That didn't have a damn thing to do with Rich Bisaccia, right? It didn't. And, the whole them getting through and blocking a kick, we talked about how you can fix that. Remember the field goal and the extra points getting blocked earlier this season was a problem? Yep. We talked about how you fix it. Go get somebody like Mercedes Lewis. Mercedes Lewis is one of the best wing guys to help protect there, right? Well, why did they let go of Mercedes Lewis? Because he was an aging player, right? He could have done that. He could have specialized that, and those kicks might not have got blocked, right? Maybe they did. Who knows? But that's a perfect example of how they moved on from Mercedes Lewis, when I think everybody on this particular program was going, I want Big Dog back. Like, are you kidding me? Why are we not bringing him back? He's cheap. He's a veteran. Because the front office always wants to get younger. They always want to get more athletic. That's how the bottom of the roster is built. So, super chat here from Joe Trev. Opportunity to play spoiler is the best position to be in. Amen, Joe. A freaking men.
What a profile pic too there, by the way.
Dude, I love it. I think it's what I screenshotted to y'all the other day.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know what it's from. I feel like I should know. I want to say it's a movie or something, but
I think so too. I can't put my finger on it. I love what Jen says here too, though. Waylon not being on the All-Pro team sucks. I think that guy deserved it, and that's another thing. To your point, just real quick about special teams, I feel like if you don't have like that crazy locked-in kicker, or let's go back to even if you don't have a guy like Desmond Howard, Devin Hester, something crazy, Tina Turner movie. Okay.
That was Ike, wasn't it? I think that guy played Ike,
right.
Or Ike Turner. Ike Turner.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have a just almost a Hall of Fame style locked in kicker, or basically a Hall of Fame returner, nobody talks about your special teams. So it's right. Just, it
is what it is. And you go back and go, well, Green Bay special teams played a huge role for the Packers in '96 to win. Desmond Howard, if they didn't have Desmond Howard, they may not win the Super Bowl, right? They may not make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, right? What happened immediately following that? They got him off the scrap heap, and then they wouldn't give him a contract, a big enough contract, so he ended up walking in free agency, if I remember correctly. I don't know if it was directly after '96 or if it was in '98, but nonetheless, they didn't move forward with that because that was just hey, he's cheap, bring him in. Oh, look, he hit a couple home runs, huge factor. Helped them win the Super Bowl with that kickoff return for a touchdown, and then it was just right to the back again. Nobody cares. Yeah. That's how they look at special teams. And I'm not saying it's right. I think a good blend of both would be the way to approach. But front office always seems to side on young, athletic playmakers as opposed to, hey, let's go get this gritty guy. That's what I would like to see. Is I want to see a couple free agents added this offseason that are not break the bank free agents, but just solid pros, a lot of experience. They've shown durability, that type of thing. And you may have to move on from your boy Nate Hobbs. You may have to move on from Aaron Banks. So both of those guys you could get rid of if you needed to. There's not a cap penalty that's going to hurt you there that's attached. Now, one frees up more money than the other, and we won't get into that until the offseason. But, yeah, it's just kind of how I look at that stuff. So I don't know. But anyway, appreciate everybody jumping in here, man. This was fun. I was going to do a 15-minute episode and talk about Matt LaFleur there a little bit, but yeah, there you go. Ike Turner, what's love got to do with it? Everybody knows the movie now. I knew I'd seen it somewhere. So yeah, boy, that's a wild story for another day. But anyway, Jake, appreciate you jumping on, Jake.
Hey man, congrats on the 25-year anniversary.
Yeah, here's what's hilarious. Everybody's going, happy 25, happy 25. I reminded Mandy yesterday, right? She was like, because it's our dating anniversary. That's when we actually started dating, right? When we first got together. And then yesterday, she
speaking of the devil right there.
That was her. Once you start, she's sitting in the bed, and I walked up, whatever, and she goes, "Clayton, what year is it?" What? It's like, and it hit me. I was like, "Oh hell, this is 26, and it's 26 years."
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
After a couple of decades, things go bad. So. All right. That's it, guys. We're out of here. I'm getting the evil stare now. So appreciate everybody jumping in. Let us know in the comments. What do you think about the Matt LaFleur news? How much money would you be willing to pay him? That's what I want to know in the comments. Everybody let us know. We want to hear your voice. How much money would you be willing to pay Matt annually in terms of salary? And where would you rank him of the coaches we just talked about, some of the highest paid coaches in the league? Where would you put him on that list? Let us know in the comments. And make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. We're out of here before I do something bad. We got dogs at the bottom wanting in here and everything. So everybody have a great day. We'll see you in the pregame show. Bye.
Here we go. We're out.
Bye, guys.